My boyfriend cheated and kissed me goodnight like nothing happened, so I just let him drown in the same panic he gave me. I found out about the cheating because Orion was stupid, not because I went looking for it. He left his tablet on the couch one night while he was in the shower, and a message popped up on the screen from a girl named Talia. The message said last night was fun, followed by a smiley face. I didn't touch the tablet. I just read what was on the screen and went to the bedroom and sat on the bed and waited. When Orion came out of the shower, he picked up the tablet and checked it and put it face down on the coffee table like nothing happened. He came to bed and kissed me on the forehead and said goodnight. That kiss is what made me decide I wasn't going to confront him. Anybody who can kiss you goodnight after getting a message like that from another girl doesn't deserve a clean breakup. He deserves to lose his mind first. I want to be clear about something. I never cheated on Orion. Not once. What I did was worse for him because I made him believe I did without ever giving him proof. The first thing I did was change my routine. I started going to the gym after work instead of coming straight home. I'd been saying I wanted to start working out again for months, so it wasn't suspicious at first, but I made sure I showered at the gym before I came home. Orion noticed by the third day. He asked why I was showering there instead of at home. I said it was just easier. He looked at me for a second longer than normal and said, okay. The next week I started texting more. I wasn't texting anyone new. I was texting my best friend Rue about everything because she was the only person who knew. But I made sure to smile at my phone when Orion was looking. I'd laugh at a message and then put my phone face down on the table the same way he did with his tablet. He didn't say anything for 3 days. On the fourth day, he asked who I was texting. I said just Rue. He said you've been texting a lot lately. I said have I? Then I picked up my phone and walked to the other room. The next thing I did was start getting ready with more effort. Not over the top. I just started wearing things I hadn't worn in a while. Earrings he bought me that I usually saved for date nights. A little more makeup on random Tuesdays. I'd leave the house looking like I had somewhere to be, even if I was just going to work. Orion started asking where I was going. I said work. He said you don't usually dress like that for work. I said I felt like it. He looked at me the way I used to look at him when I wondered if something was off. It felt good watching him feel that. Then I added the big one. I started being less available. I used to text Orion on my lunch break every single day. I stopped. Not all at once. I just started skipping days. He'd text me at noon and I'd respond at 2. Then I'd respond at 3. Then sometimes I wouldn't respond until I got home. He asked me why I was taking so long to reply. I said I was busy. He said busy doing what? I said just stuff. That word drove him crazy. Stuff. He said that 3 times back to me that week trying to get me to explain. I never did. On a Friday night I told Orion I was going out with Rue. I actually did go out with Rue. We went to dinner and then walked around downtown and I came home at 11. Orion was sitting on the couch waiting. He asked me how dinner was. I said great. He asked where we went. I told him. He asked what I had. I told him. Then he asked who else was there. I said just us. He said are you sure? I said yes. He didn't believe me. I could see it all over his face. He was sitting there doing the exact math I did the night I saw Talia's message on his tablet. He was replaying everything in his head. The gym showers, the texting, the clothes, the late replies. He was building a case against me, except he had actual evidence on his tablet, and I had given him nothing but vibes. That's the part that made it perfect. He had nothing to confront me with because I hadn't done anything, but the feeling was eating him alive. He started checking my phone when I was in the shower. I know because I started leaving it on the counter with nothing to find. He went through my messages with Rue, but Rue and I only talked about the plan in person, never over text. All he saw was normal conversations about food and work and weekend plans. It made him worse. He couldn't find anything, which meant either I was clean or I was better at hiding it than he was. 2 weeks later, Orion sat me down and said he needed to talk. He said he felt like something was different between us and that he was scared of losing me. I asked him why he felt that way. He said I'd been distant. I said have I? He said yes. He said he didn't want to lose what we had and that he wanted to be honest with me about everything going forward. I looked at him and waited. He told me about Talia. He said it happened twice and that it was over and that he ended it. He was crying. He said he was telling me because he didn't want any secrets between us. I let him finish. I let every word land. I let the tears fall. I let him sit in that awful silence where you've just confessed something terrible and the other person hasn't said a single thing back and you don't know if the next sound will be forgiveness or a door closing. He wiped his face with his sleeve and looked at me like a man standing at the edge of a cliff waiting to see which way the wind blew. Then I said, okay. He blinked. He said, okay what? I said, okay, I heard you. He stared at me. He said that was it. I said, what do you want me to say? He said he didn't know. He said he expected me to scream or throw something or leave. He said he had been bracing himself for a fight. I said I wasn't going to fight him. I said I appreciated his honesty. I said it took courage to tell me. His face went through 6 emotions in about 3 seconds. Relief, then confusion, then suspicion, then more relief, then guilt, then something close to fear. He couldn't figure out why I was calm. A normal person who just heard their boyfriend cheated would not be sitting on the couch saying, I appreciate your honesty. But Orion was so desperate for it to be okay that he convinced himself I was just a mature, understanding person. He wanted to believe that version of me because the alternative was that I already knew. And if I already knew, it meant every gym shower and every smile at my phone and every late reply had been deliberate. That possibility was too terrifying for him to sit with, so he pushed it away. He hugged me and said he would never do it again. He said I was the best thing in his life. He said he didn't deserve me. That part was true. The next morning, I woke up early and started phase 2. Phase 1 had been the slow erosion of his confidence. Phase 2 was the exit. I had already been looking at apartments for 2 weeks. Rue's cousin had a 1-bedroom opening up on the 1st of the month in a building 10 minutes from my job. The rent was $1,350 and I had $6,800 saved in an account Orion didn't know about. The account had been open since before we moved in together, but I had never mentioned it because it was my emergency fund, and I had always believed in keeping something that was just mine. My mother taught me that. She said never let a man know everything about your money because the day you need to leave is the day you'll be glad you didn't. I thought she was being paranoid when she said it. Turns out she was being practical. I sat down with Rue and mapped out every dollar. First month, $1,350. Last month, $1,350. Security deposit, $1,350. That was $4,050 right there. That left me $2,750 for moving costs and the gap between paychecks. It was tight. I'd be eating rice and eggs for the first month, but I had done that before and I could do it again. The difference between being broke on your own terms and being comfortable in someone else's apartment is a difference most people don't understand until they've lived both. That fund was about to pay for itself. I started moving things out slowly. Not furniture, personal things, my grandmother's jewelry box, my winter coats from the hall closet, the photo albums I kept on the top shelf of our bedroom closet, books, the small espresso machine I had bought before we started dating that Orion used every morning without ever asking where it came from. I moved one or two things at a time. I'd put them in a bag when he was at work and drive them to Rue's apartment. She had cleared out half her hall closet and a section of her garage for my stuff. By the end of the second week, the apartment looked almost the same to someone who wasn't paying attention. But if you opened the closet, a third of it was empty. If you looked at the bookshelf, entire rows were gone. If you checked the bathroom cabinet, my backup toiletries and medications and the nice perfume I kept for special occasions had disappeared. Orion didn't notice any of it. He was too busy being grateful that I had forgiven him. He was being the best boyfriend he'd been in 2 years, cooking dinner, bringing home flowers, sending me texts during the day that said things like thinking about you and I'm so lucky. He was performing the version of himself he should have been the entire time. It was almost funny, except it wasn't, because every flower he brought home was a flower he should have brought home before Talia. Every dinner he cooked was a dinner he should have cooked before that message lit up his tablet screen. He wasn't becoming a better boyfriend. He was just a guilty one. There's a difference between growing and performing, and Orion was performing at a level that would have been impressive if it wasn't so transparent. He started suggesting date nights. He started asking about my day, and actually listening to the answers. He bought me a necklace for no reason, and left it on my pillow with a note that said, just because. I wore it the next day. Then I packed it in a box at Rue's apartment the day after. He never noticed it was gone because he never looked at me closely enough to notice details. He only noticed absences. That was always his problem. Rue asked me once if any of it made me waver. She asked if watching him try so hard made me reconsider leaving. I told her no. I told her the trying was the worst part because it proved he was always capable of being that person, and he had just chosen not to be. He only started caring when he thought he might lose something. That's not love. That's inventory management. On the 28th of the month, I signed the lease on the new apartment. I paid the first month, last month, and security deposit, $4,050. It cleaned out most of my savings, but I didn't care. The apartment had hardwood floors and a window that faced east, and a kitchen just big enough for one person to cook without bumping into someone who didn't deserve to be there. On the 30th, I waited until Orion left for work at 7:15 a.m. I watched his car pull out of the lot from the bedroom window. Then I called Rue. She arrived at 7:40 with her cousin and her cousin's boyfriend and a borrowed pickup truck. We moved everything in 4 hours. The couch was mine. The bed frame was mine. The dresser in the bedroom was mine. The kitchen table was mine. I had bought most of the furniture when we moved in because Orion said he was between paychecks and would pay me back later. He never did. The $2,200 he owed me for furniture was money I had written off a long time ago. Taking the furniture back was just collecting a debt he forgot he owed. By 11:30 a.m., the apartment was half empty. The living room had his recliner, the TV stand, and the television. The bedroom had his clothes and his nightstand. The kitchen had his dishes and the microwave. I left everything that was his and took everything that was mine. I left one thing behind that wasn't mine, the tablet. I had taken it from the living room and placed it on the kitchen counter, screen up, open to his messages with Talia. I had to scroll back 3 months to find the thread because he had deleted recent messages, but he hadn't deleted all of them. The older ones were still there. The ones from when it first started. The ones where she sent him pictures. The ones where he told her things about our relationship that made my chest feel like it was caving in. The ones where he said he loved me but wasn't in love with me. The ones where he said I had gotten too comfortable and didn't try anymore. The ones where Talia asked what I was like and he said she's fine. She's just not exciting anymore. Fine. 3 years together and I was fine. The woman who drove 40 minutes in a snowstorm to bring him soup when he had the flu was fine. The woman who covered his half of rent for 2 months when he got laid off and never asked for it back was fine. The woman who postponed her own career opportunities so they could stay in the same city because he said he wasn't ready for long distance was fine. He wrote those messages during the same weeks I was making him lunches and leaving notes in his jacket pockets and planning a surprise birthday trip to the coast that I ended up canceling after I found out. I left the tablet open to one specific message. The one where Talia asked if he felt guilty, and he replied, not really. She doesn't pay enough attention to notice. That was the message I wanted him to see when he walked in. I wanted those words to be the first thing he read in an apartment that was suddenly and completely half empty. Next to the tablet, I left my apartment key and a note. The note said the lease is in both our names and expires in 4 months. I've spoken with the landlord and he's agreed to let you take over as the sole tenant or break the lease with a $1,700 penalty. Your choice. Below that, I wrote one more line. She paid enough attention. I didn't sign it. Rue drove me to the new apartment. I sat in the passenger seat with the window cracked and didn't feel anything. Not relief, not sadness, not even the satisfaction I thought I would feel. I just felt finished. Like the last page of something had turned and there was nothing left to read. My phone started buzzing at 5:47 p.m. p.m. That was when Orion got home. The first call I let ring. The second one too. Then the text started. He sent 9 in a row. Where are you? What happened? Why is everything gone? Where is the couch? Where are your clothes? What did I do? Please call me back. Please. The 10th message was just my name. Then a voicemail. I listened to it once. His voice was shaking. He said he came home and the apartment was empty. He said he found the tablet. He said he saw the message. He said he was sorry. He said he didn't mean it. He said he would do anything. He said, please don't do this. He said that 3 times. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. I saved the voicemail, not because I wanted to listen to it again, but because Rue said I should keep it in case he tried to claim I left without warning and refused to cooperate on the lease. She was practical like that. Over the next 2 weeks, Orion called me 43 times. I know because I counted. He left 11 voicemails. Each one was longer than the last. In the first few, he was apologetic. He was broken. He was begging. By the 5th one, he was angry. He said I had been playing games with his head for weeks. He said I had psychologically tortured him on purpose. He said what I did was worse than what he did because at least he was honest enough to confess. I almost laughed at that one. Honest enough to confess. He confessed because he thought I was cheating and he wanted to level the playing field. He didn't confess out of guilt. He confessed out of strategy. By the 7th voicemail, he started bringing up things I had done during the plan. He said he knew the gym showers were deliberate. He said he knew the phone smiling was deliberate. He said I had calculated every single move to make him paranoid, and then watched him unravel like it was entertainment. He wasn't wrong, but he was the one who handed me the playbook. All I did was run it. By the 8th voicemail, his anger was gone and the begging was back. He said he couldn't eat. He said he couldn't sleep. He said the apartment felt like a ghost town. He said he sat in the recliner staring at the spot where the couch used to be, and he couldn't stop replaying every moment from the past 2 months, wondering which parts were real and which parts were the plan. That's the thing about what I did. I never lied to him. Not once. I went to the gym. I texted Rue. I wore earrings. I went to dinner. Everything I did was true. The only thing that wasn't true was the story he told himself about what it meant. He built his own panic from nothing because his guilty conscience filled in the blanks I left empty. Rue said it was poetic. I said it was just math. He gave me a reason to leave. I gave him a reason to wonder. The wondering was always going to be worse than the knowing because at least when you know something, you can process it. When you're wondering, you're stuck in a loop. You play it over and over and over, and every time you find a new detail that makes it worse. That's what Orion was doing. He was drowning in a story that only existed in his head while I was unpacking boxes in an apartment that smelled like fresh paint and possibility. The first night alone, I made pasta and sat on the floor because the table wasn't set up yet, and ate dinner with the windows open and the city noise coming in, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Space. Not just physical space, but the kind of space inside your chest that opens up when you stop carrying someone else's guilt for them. Rue came over the second night with wine, and we sat on the kitchen floor and she said she was proud of me. She said most people would have screamed or cried or confronted him right away, and that what I did required patience she didn't think she could have managed. I told her it wasn't patience. It was just redirected anger. Every day I didn't confront him was a day I put that energy into my exit instead. She raised her glass to that. He showed up at my new apartment 3 weeks after I moved out. I don't know how he found the address. Maybe through Wes. Maybe through the landlord. Maybe he drove around the neighborhood until he recognized my car in the lot. It didn't matter. He buzzed the intercom and I looked at the camera and saw him standing in the rain with his hands in his jacket pockets, looking up at the building like he was trying to figure out which window was mine. I didn't buzz him in. He stood there for 20 minutes. I watched on the camera the whole time. He shifted his weight from foot to foot. He wiped rain off his face twice. At one point, he took his phone out, started to type something, then put it back in his pocket without sending it. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just the way a person looks when the confidence has been pulled out from under them, and they don't know how to stand without it. At the 18-minute mark, he looked directly into the camera. I don't know if he knew it was there, or if he was just looking at the intercom panel, but for a second, it felt like he was looking at me. Then he turned around and walked to his car and sat in the driver's seat for another 5 minutes before he drove away. His mother called me the following week. Her name is Janine, and she had always been sweet to me. She said Orion was a mess. She said he told her what he did and what I did, and she said she wasn't calling to take sides, but she wanted to know if I was okay. I told her I was. I told her I was sorry things happened the way they did. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said her son had a habit of not appreciating things until they were gone, and that she had been telling him that his entire life. She said she hoped I found someone who deserved me. I told her that was kind. She said it wasn't kindness. She said it was the truth and her son was an idiot. That made me smile. It was the first real smile in weeks. Orion took over the lease. He paid the $1,700 penalty to break it 2 months early because he said he couldn't live there anymore. He moved back in with his mother. I heard this from a mutual friend named Wes who worked with Orion and occasionally texted Rue updates that Rue passed along to me without me asking. I didn't need to know any of it, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't listen. Wes said Orion was quiet at work. He said Orion stopped going out on weekends. He said Orion deleted all his social media. He said Orion asked about me once, and Wes told him I seemed happy, and Orion just nodded and walked away. 6 months later, I was at a coffee shop near my apartment reading a book when I looked up and saw Orion across the street. He was walking with his head down and his hands in his pockets, and he didn't see me. He looked thinner. His hair was longer than he usually kept it. He walked past the window and disappeared around the corner, and I sat there for a minute holding my book and feeling something I hadn't expected. Not love, not longing, not even pity. Just the quiet recognition of someone you used to know becoming someone you don't. Rue asked me later if it made me sad. I said no. She asked if it made me feel anything at all. I said it made me feel like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. She said good. She said that was the whole whole point. Last month, Orion sent me one final text. It said, I know you'll probably never read this, but I want you to know that I think about what I lost every single day. I understand now why you did what you did. I'm not angry anymore. I just miss you. I read it. I didn't respond. Some people only miss you once they've run out of distractions.